The morning sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of our penthouse, casting golden light across the marble countertops where I stood, adjusting my bow tie in the reflection of the microwave door. "You're wearing the navy tux?" Sienna's voice came from behind me, sharp with that particular edge she'd developed over the past 6 months. "I told you to wear the charcoal one. Navy photographs terribly under stage lights." I turned to face my wife, taking in her appearance. She looked stunning, as always, her dark hair swept into an elegant updo, her emerald dress hugging curves that still made my breath catch after 12 years of marriage. But there was something different in her eyes lately, a distance, a calculation. "I think I'll survive looking slightly less photogenic than usual," I said with a gentle smile, reaching for my coffee. "Tonight's about you anyway, your nomination, your moment." Sienna was already scrolling through her phone, her thumbs flying across the screen. "Liam just texted. He's picking me up in 20 minutes. We need to coordinate our entrance. The photographers will want shots of the whole team." "Liam's picking you up?" I set my coffee down carefully. "I thought we were going together." "Don't be ridiculous, Ethan. You're sponsoring the event. You have to arrive separately, do the donor reception, all that corporate schmoozing." She didn't even look up from her phone. "Besides, arriving with my creative team makes more sense for the optics. This is a career night for me." "Right, optics." The word tasted bitter in my mouth. Sienna finally glanced up, and for just a moment something flickered across her face. Was it guilt? Annoyance? "You understand, don't you? This award could change everything for me. For my career. The agency is depending on this win to secure the Henderson account." "I understand perfectly." And I did. Perhaps more than she realized. She crossed the distance between us, rising on her toes to kiss my cheek. A perfunctory gesture, the kind you'd give a business associate. "Thank you for understanding. And thank you for the sponsorship. The company's contribution really made this event possible." "Ward Technologies is always happy to support innovation in marketing," I said formally, and saw her wince slightly at my tone. "Ethan, you should finish getting ready. Liam will be here soon." I picked up my coffee and walked toward my study, feeling her eyes on my back. "Ethan, wait." Her voice was softer now, almost vulnerable. "You know I appreciate everything you've done, right? For me. For us." I paused in the doorway but didn't turn around. "Do I?" Before she could answer, her phone chimed again. She glanced at it, and whatever emotion had been building in her expression vanished, replaced by that bright, professional smile. "That's Liam. I have to go." She grabbed her clutch from the counter. "I'll see you there?" "I'll be the one sitting in the front row," I said quietly. "Where I've always been." She laughed, a light, dismissive sound. "Don't be so dramatic. It's just one night." The door clicked shut behind her, and I stood alone in our penthouse, staring at my reflection in the study window. Just one night, I thought. One night where everything would become crystal clear. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit hype to boost this episode. Drop a comment below with your city or country. I'm always curious where viewers are joining from. The Grand Meridian Hotel Ballroom was a cathedral of wealth and ambition, its vaulted ceilings dripping with crystal chandeliers that cast prismatic light across the 800 guests assembled below. I had paid for most of this opulence, though few people in attendance would realize it. My company's logo, a sleek, modern W that represented Ward Technologies' global reach, adorned every surface, the massive LED screens flanking the stage, the programs on every table, the banners hanging from the balconies, even the cocktail napkins. I'd negotiated the 6-figure sponsorship package myself, viewing it as an investment in Sienna's happiness. She'd been so excited when her nomination was announced 3 months ago, practically glowing with ambition and possibility. I remembered how she'd thrown her arms around me, squealing with delight. This could be it, Ethan. This could be my breakthrough moment. You deserve it, I'd told her, meaning every word. You've worked so hard. The firm wants to make a big showing, a statement, but the sponsorship fees... She'd trailed off, biting her lip in that way that used to drive me wild. How much do you need? I'd already been reaching for my phone. Ethan, I can't ask you to... You're not asking. I'm offering. Ward Technologies believes in supporting innovation. And I believe in you. The gratitude in her eyes had lasted approximately 48 hours before transforming into expectation, then entitlement, and finally into something that looked uncomfortably like contempt. Now, sitting at my designated table right in front of the stage, Table 1 befitting the primary sponsor, I watched the pre-ceremony bustle with a strange sense of detachment. Around me, tech industry leaders and marketing executives air-kissed and networked, their voices creating a constant hum of ambition and deal-making. Ethan, hell of an event you've put together. James Chen, CEO of a competing tech firm, clapped me on the shoulder. That's a serious check you wrote to make all this happen. Supporting the next generation of marketing innovators, I replied smoothly. It's good for everyone. And that your wife is nominated? That's just coincidence? James winked. Smart man. Keep the talent in the family, right? Before I could respond, a commotion near the entrance drew everyone's attention. Sienna had arrived, and she'd made sure everyone would notice. She moved through the crowd like royalty, her emerald dress catching the light with every step. But it wasn't her entrance that made my jaw tighten. It was the man beside her. Liam Crawford was 28, fresh-faced and handsome in that effortless way that came from youth and good genetics. His hand rested possessively on the small of Sienna's back as they posed for photographers, their heads tilted together, their smiles matching in warmth and familiarity. I watched as they worked the room together, moving as a unit, finishing each other's sentences when they stopped to chat with various executives. Sienna's laugh, bright and genuine in a way it hadn't been with me in months, carried across the ballroom. She was radiant, alive, transformed, and she hadn't once looked in my direction. Trouble in paradise? James had followed my gaze. Just admiring my wife's networking skills, I said evenly. That's one way to put it. James lowered his voice. Look, I don't want to speak out of turn, but the rumors have been circulating. About her and the junior creative director. People talk. People always talk. Sure, but Ethan, as a friend, maybe keep your eyes open tonight. I've seen this before. The younger guy, the older woman looking for validation, the husband who's too busy building empires to notice his own house is on fire. I turned to look at James directly. My house isn't on fire. It's been burning for months. Tonight, I'm just letting everyone else see the flames. James blinked, clearly taken aback by the bitterness in my tone. Jesus, you okay? I will be. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, glancing at the screen. It was Marcus, my CFO and oldest friend. Marcus, you sure about this? Once you pull the trigger, there's no going back. Ethan, I've never been more sure of anything. Marcus, all right, I've got the systems ready. Just say the word. I pocketed my phone and watched as Sienna and Liam finally made their way toward the front tables. They were deep in conversation, their heads bent close together, his hand still on her back. When they reached her assigned seat, 2 tables away from mine, I noted with dark amusement. Liam leaned in to whisper something that made her laugh and swat his chest playfully. Only then did she glance in my direction. Our eyes met across the distance, and for a moment, I saw something flicker in her expression. Recognition? Shame? It vanished quickly, replaced by a cool smile and a small wave, as if I were a casual acquaintance rather than the man who'd shared her bed for over a decade. I raised my glass to her in a silent toast. She looked away. The lights dimmed. The ceremony was about to begin. The evening progressed through the usual parade of industry accolades and self-congratulatory speeches. Ethan sat through awards for Best Integrated Campaign, Rising Star in Digital Media, and Lifetime Achievement in Brand Innovation, his smile fixed in place, his mind working through calculations that had nothing to do with marketing metrics. Around him, the conversations swirled. "Did you see the Henderson pitch? Sienna's team absolutely nailed it. I heard she's being headhunted by 3 different agencies. That young guy on her team, Liam something, he's her secret weapon. They're inseparable." Every comment was a needle, and Ethan felt each prick with cold awareness. This wasn't new information. He'd known for months that something had shifted in his marriage. The late nights at the office, the sudden interest in working out, in new clothes, in taking selfies for social media. The way Sienna's face lit up when her phone buzzed with messages she'd tilt away from him to read. He'd tried to address it, of course, multiple times. "Is everything okay? You seem distant lately." "I'm just stressed with the Henderson pitch, Ethan. Not everything is about you. Maybe we should take that trip to Tuscany, get away, reconnect. I can't just abandon my team right now. They need me. We need time together. When's the last time we had a real conversation? God, you're so needy lately. Can't you just be supportive without making everything about your feelings?" The final conversation had been 3 weeks ago, after he'd come home early and found Liam in their living room, sitting too close to Sienna on the couch, their laptops open, but their attention clearly on each other rather than work. "Ethan, you're home early." Sienna had jumped up, flustered. "We were just working on the presentation deck. At 9 p.m., in our home." He'd kept his voice level. Liam had stood, extending his hand with infuriating confidence. "Mr. Ward, great to finally meet you. Sienna talks about you all the time." "Does she?" Ethan had shaken the offered hand, noting how Liam's grip tried too hard to be firm. "And what exactly does she say?" "Just that you're incredibly supportive of her career. Not all husbands would be so understanding about the hours this industry demands." Liam's smile was friendly, but his eyes held a challenge. "I believe in supporting my wife's ambitions." Ethan had looked at Sienna then. All of them. She'd missed the implication entirely, or pretended to. Liam was just leaving. "I'll walk you out." They'd stood in the doorway for 15 minutes, their voices low, punctuated by her laughter. When she'd finally come back inside, Ethan was waiting. "We need to talk." "Not now, Ethan. I'm exhausted." "When then?" "Because you're never here anymore. And when you are, you're not really present." "What do you want me to say?" She'd snapped, her mask finally slipping. "That I'm tired? That sometimes I feel like I'm suffocating? That I spent my 20s building your dream and now I'm finally building mine?" "Building your dream, or building it with someone else?" "Oh my God!" She'd laughed, but it was harsh. "You're jealous. Of Liam. That's what this is about." "Should I be? He's 28 years old, Ethan. He's a colleague, a friend. And yes, he's talented and ambitious and excited about this industry in a way that—" She'd stopped herself, but the damage was done. "In a way that I'm not?" Ethan had finished quietly. "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." She'd softened then, coming to sit beside him. "Look, I know I've been distant. The pressure with this nomination, with the Henderson account, it's overwhelming. But after tonight, after the awards, things will calm down. We'll take that trip. Reconnect. I promise." He'd wanted to believe her. God, how he'd wanted to believe her. But the promises of people who'd already checked out of a relationship were just words, empty and weightless. Now, sitting in the Grand Meridian Ballroom, watching the Master of Ceremonies approach the podium to announce the Innovator of the Year category, Ethan felt a strange calm settle over him. This was it. The moment of truth. Not just for Sienna's career, but for their marriage. For everything they'd built together. or everything he'd thought they'd built. "And now," the MC announced, his voice booming through the sound system, "the moment we've all been waiting for. The award for Innovator of the Year, sponsored by Ward Technologies." A ripple of applause. Ethan's company logo filled the massive screens. "Recognizing visionary leadership in marketing excellence, our nominees are—" The lights dimmed further. A spotlight hit each nominee as their names were called. When it found Sienna, she stood gracefully, smiling and waving, and Ethan's heart clenched despite everything. She was beautiful, she was brilliant, and she was about to break his heart in front of 800 people. He knew. He just knew. "And the winner is—" The MC opened the envelope with practiced dramatic flair. "Sienna Ward, for her groundbreaking integrated campaign for Summit Automotive." The ballroom erupted in applause. Sienna's table exploded with celebration, her team members hugging her, cheering, lifting glasses. And there was Liam, pulling her into an embrace that lasted just a beat too long, whispering something in her ear that made her eyes shine with tears. She made her way to the stage, pausing to hug colleagues, accept congratulations, bask in the spotlight. When she reached the podium and accepted the crystal trophy, the applause slowly faded, leaving only the sound of 800 people waiting to hear what she had to say. Ethan leaned forward slightly in his seat, his hands folded on the table, his expression neutral. Sienna looked out at the crowd, her smile radiant. "Wow, I honestly don't know what to say. This is beyond my wildest dreams." Polite laughter from the audience. "When I started in this industry 15 years ago, I was a junior account coordinator with more ambition than sense." More laughter. "I thought I could change the world with clever taglines and pretty graphics. And over the years, I've learned that marketing isn't about changing the world. It's about understanding it, reflecting it, and yes, sometimes challenging it." She paused, looking down at the trophy in her hands. "This award represents hundreds of hours of work, countless late nights, moments of doubt and breakthrough. And I couldn't have done any of it alone." Here it comes, Ethan thought. This is where she thanks her husband, her supporter, her partner. "I want to thank my incredible team at Sterling and Associates. You all pushed me to be better, to think bigger, to never settle for good enough." She gestured toward her table. "Melissa, your strategic vision is unmatched. David, your data analytics made our pitch bulletproof. Sarah, your design work brought our concepts to life." She paused again, and Ethan saw her eyes find Liam in the crowd. "But especially—" Her voice grew softer, more intimate. "I need to thank someone who's been there from the very beginning of this project. Someone who believed in this campaign when it was just a wild idea scribbled on a whiteboard. Someone who stayed up with me until 3 a.m. refining our pitch, who talked me down from panicking a dozen times, who reminded me why I love this work even when I wanted to quit." The room had gone very still. People were leaning forward, sensing something significant in her tone. "My real partner in bringing this vision to life." Sienna's smile grew impossibly brighter. "Liam Crawford." The spotlight swung to find Liam, who stood with practiced humility, one hand raised in acknowledgement. He looked every bit the gracious colleague accepting recognition for a job well done. But Ethan saw the smugness in his smile, the possessive way his eyes stayed locked on Sienna. "Your real partner." The words echoed in Ethan's head, bouncing around his skull like bullets. Your real partner. Not your husband. Not the man who'd supported your dreams for 12 years. Not the man who'd written a 6-figure check to make this entire evening possible. Your real partner. Around him, applause built again, though Ethan noted some uncomfortable shifting, some exchanged glances. People knew he was Sienna's husband. People knew about Ward Technologies' sponsorship. This was awkward, even by industry standards. Sienna continued talking, thanking clients, mentioning the Henderson account, making gracious nods toward her agency. But Ethan had stopped listening. His mind had gone very clear, very focused. He felt his phone in his pocket, solid and ready. Marcus would be watching the live stream. Marcus would be waiting. Sienna wrapped up her speech with a final thank you, holding the trophy aloft as the crowd rose for a standing ovation. The applause washed over her like a wave, and she stood there drinking it in, glowing with triumph and vindication. She'd done it. She'd won. She'd publicly claimed someone else as her real partner while her husband sat 15 feet away, his company's logo literally surrounding them both. Ethan stood slowly from his seat. The motion drew a few eyes. People nearby noticed, probably wondering if he was going to congratulate his wife. He buttoned his navy tuxedo jacket with deliberate care, smoothed down his lapels, checked his cufflinks, and then he turned toward the exit and began walking. At first, no one noticed. Sienna was still on stage, basking in her moment. But as Ethan moved through the ballroom, navigating between tables with calm purpose, heads began to turn. Whispers started. "Is that—" "That's her husband." "Where's he going?" "Oh my God, he's leaving." By the time he reached the main doors, a significant portion of the room had noticed his departure. Sienna, finally coming down from the stage, trophy in hand, looked up and saw him. Their eyes met across the distance, one final moment of contact. He saw confusion flash across her face, then annoyance, then the beginning of panic as she registered that this wasn't a bathroom break or a phone call. This was an exit. He pushed through the doors and let them close behind him, muffling the applause and chatter. The hallway outside the ballroom was blessedly quiet, decorated with the same elegant excess as the event itself. More banners, more branding, more reminders of his company's generosity. Ethan walked until he found a quiet alcove near the coat check, then pulled out his phone. His hands were steady. His breathing was even. He felt nothing except a crystalline clarity he hadn't experienced in months. He opened his company's sponsorship management app, a custom platform Ward Technologies had developed for tracking philanthropic investments and corporate partnerships. With a few taps, he navigated to the Sterling and Associates Innovator Awards contract. Sponsorship agreement. Status: active total commitment, $250,000 dispersed, $150,000, remaining $100,000, due day of event. There was a button at the bottom of the screen, red and ominous. Cancel agreement. Ward Technologies had specifically negotiated a cancellation clause, standard for their large donations. It allowed them to withdraw funding if the beneficiary organization engaged in activities contrary to the company's values, or if the partnership no longer aligned with strategic objectives. His finger hovered over the button. This would hurt more than just Sienna. The event organizers, the agency, the other award recipients, all would feel the impact of this decision. The remaining $100,000 was supposed to pay for the venue, the catering, the production crew. Without it, Sterling and Associates would be scrambling to cover costs, their reputation damaged by the very public withdrawal of their primary sponsor. Was he being petty? Vindictive? Using his wealth and power to punish his wife for a slight, however public and humiliating? No. This wasn't about punishment. It was about clarity. About finally, definitively, making visible what had been invisible for too long. Sienna had chosen to publicly diminish him, to reduce 12 years of partnership to nothing, to crown someone else in his place. In front of his colleagues, his competitors, his entire professional community. She'd made her statement. Now he'd make his. He pressed the button. The screen prompted, "Are you sure? This action cannot be undone." He pressed, "Confirm agreement, cancelled. Refund initiated, 100,000 disbursement, halt, active notification sent to Sterling and Associates admin." His phone immediately buzzed with a message from Marcus. "Marcus, holy shit, you actually did it. The system is processing now. ETA 90 seconds until they feel it on their end." Ethan, "Good, I'm heading out." Marcus, you okay? Ethan, I will be. He pocketed his phone and started walking toward the main exit, past the registration desk where volunteers were still checking in late arrivals, past the bar where industry executives were ordering overpriced cocktails, past the photo wall where couples were posing in front of the event logo, his company's logo. Behind him, he heard the ballroom doors burst open, running footsteps, a woman's voice, sharp with urgency. Sir, wait! Mr. Ward! He didn't stop. He could see the revolving doors ahead, see his escape, see the beginning of his new life. Ethan! That was Sienna's voice, closer than the others. He'd know that voice anywhere, had heard it whisper love confessions, shout in anger, laugh in joy. Now it carried pure panic. He kept walking. Ethan, please. She caught up to him just as he reached the doors, grabbing his arm. She was breathless, her carefully styled hair coming loose, her trophy clutched in one hand. What are you doing? Where are you going? He looked down at her hand on his arm, then up at her face. I would think that's obvious. You're leaving? Now? In the middle of my... She stopped, recalibrating. Can we please talk about this? Not here. Not like this. You didn't seem concerned about venue or timing when you thanked your real partner on that stage. She had the grace to flinch. Ethan, I was emotional. I was thanking the team. You know how these speeches work. You thank the people you work directly with on the project. Your real partner. He repeated the words slowly, letting them hang in the air between them. Not my incredible collaborator, not my talented colleague, your real partner. You're being ridiculous. It was a figure of speech. Was it? He gently removed her hand from his arm. Because from where I was sitting, in the seat of honor, at the table paid for by my company, under the banners bearing my logo, it sounded pretty definitive. Oh my God. Understanding was dawning on her face, followed by indignation. You're jealous. You're actually jealous of Liam. I told you there's nothing. This isn't about Liam. Ethan's voice was quiet, but firm. This is about respect, about partnership, about the fact that my wife just stood on a stage I paid for and told 800 people that I'm not her real partner, that someone else holds that position. I didn't say you weren't. You didn't say I was. He let that sink in. You thanked your entire team by name. You thanked your clients. You thanked the agency. But your husband? The man who's supported you for 12 years? Who negotiated the sponsorship deal that made this entire event possible? Who's cheered for every promotion, every award, every success? I didn't even warrant a mention, because I'm not your real partner anymore. Someone else is. Sienna's face had gone pale. You're making this about you. This was my night, my achievement. Can't you just be happy for me? I was happy for you. I've been happy for you every single day of our marriage. But happiness is a two-way street, Sienna, and you stopped traveling in my direction a long time ago. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it reflexively, and her face went from pale to white. What? Ethan asked, though he already knew. There's a message from Grant, the CEO. He says... She looked up at him, her eyes wide with disbelief. He says there's an emergency, something about the sponsorship. Ethan, what did you do? What you forced me to do. He started to turn away. Wait! You can't just... Her phone rang. She looked at the screen, and he saw her hand start to shake. You should answer that, he said quietly. It sounds important. She stabbed at the answer button. Grant? What's going... Even from 2 feet away, Ethan could hear Grant's voice exploding through the speaker. What did you do? What the hell did you do to your husband? Sienna's eyes shot to Ethan's face. I didn't. We just got a notification. Ward Technologies has canceled their sponsorship. Effective immediately. Do you have any idea what this means? Around them, People in the hallway had stopped to stare. The coat check girl, 2 waiters with empty trays, a group of young executives who'd come out to vape. All eyes were on Sienna as she stood there, her award in one hand, her phone in the other, her face crumbling. "Grant, I can explain. We're short $100,000. The venue is threatening to shut us down. The caterers are pulling out. The live stream is still running and everyone can see the screens going blank. This is a disaster. This is a complete PR nightmare." "What did you say to him? What did you do?" "I didn't. I just, get him back here. Fix this, or your career is over. Do you understand me? Over." The line went dead. Sienna stood frozen, her phone still pressed to her ear, her eyes welling with tears. When she finally looked at Ethan, there was genuine fear in her expression. "Please," she whispered. "Please don't do this. We can fix this. I'll apologize. I'll thank you publicly. I'll do whatever you want. Just, please don't destroy everything I've worked for." Ethan felt a wave of something that might have been pity or might have been sorrow. "I'm not destroying anything, Sienna. You did that yourself." "I made a mistake. One mistake in 12 years. "No." He shook his head slowly. "You made a choice. Tonight wasn't a mistake. It was the culmination of months of choices. To prioritize someone else. To diminish our partnership. To treat me like an ATM instead of a husband. Tonight, you just said the quiet part out loud." Behind her, more people were emerging from the ballroom. Word was spreading. Something was happening. The screens inside were flickering. The Ward Technologies logo was disappearing. "Ethan, I'm begging you." Tears were streaming down her face now, ruining her carefully applied makeup. "Don't humiliate me like this. Not in front of everyone." He looked at her for a long moment. This woman he'd loved, this stranger she'd become. "I'm not the one who humiliated you, Sienna. You did that all by yourself. I'm just walking away from the mess." He turned and pushed through the revolving doors, stepping out into the cool night air. Behind him, he heard her calling his name, heard the murmur of voices rising to a crescendo, heard the beginning of what would undoubtedly become the biggest scandal in the marketing industry's recent history. But he didn't look back. The next 72 hours were a masterclass in how quickly a life could unravel when built on a foundation of image rather than substance. Ethan watched it all from a distance, literally and figuratively. He'd moved into one of his properties, a penthouse in the financial district that he'd purchased through a private trust years ago as an investment. Sienna had never known about it. There were a lot of things Sienna had never bothered to know about his life, his business, his carefully constructed safety nets. The morning after the ceremony, the story exploded across industry media. Marketing world shocked as top sponsor pulls out mid-ceremony Sterling and Associates faces crisis. After Ward Technologies cancellation Innovator of the Year win, tainted by sponsorship scandal. By afternoon, the commentary had shifted from the business angle to the personal. Sources: sponsorship withdrawal linked to winner's acceptance speech marketing executive, thanks real partner, but he wasn't her husband. Tech CEO walks out after wife's award speech, takes $100K with him, and by evening, the internet had done what the internet does best, dissected every frame of the ceremony's live stream, created memes, and picked sides with tribal ferocity. She really thanked another man and called him her real partner while her husband was sitting right there? The disrespect is insane. Imagine paying $250K to sponsor your wife's award ceremony and she doesn't even mention you. I'd pull out too. This is what happens when you prioritize work hubby over real hubby. He's petty AF for this. She was just thanking her colleague. Toxic masculinity at its finest. If you watch the video, you can see the exact moment his heart breaks. Then he just stands up and walks out like a boss, cold as ice. The video clips went viral. Someone had isolated the moment Sienna said, "my real partner," and set it to dramatic music. Someone else had created a split screen showing Ethan's face during the speech and his calm departure. The hashtag, #RealPartner, was trending. Ethan's phone rang constantly. Friends, business associates, family. Even his mother called, her voice tight with worry. "Ethan, honey, I'm seeing all these awful things online. Are you okay? What happened?" "I'm fine, Mom. Just dealing with some personal issues." "Personal issues? Your wife publicly humiliated you and you pulled funding from her event. That's more than personal issues." It was time to make a statement. "A statement? You torpedoed her career. The articles are saying she might lose her job." "Her choices torpedoed her career. I just removed my financial support from a situation where I wasn't valued." There was a long pause. "You sound so cold." "I'm not cold. I'm clear." He looked out over the city from his penthouse windows. "For the first time in months, I'm perfectly clear about where I stand." Marcus came by on the second day carrying scotch and concern in equal measure. They sat in Ethan's new living room, sparsely furnished, more like a high-end hotel than a home, and Marcus poured them both generous drinks. "The board wants to know if this is going to blow back on the company," Marcus said carefully. "Canceling a charitable sponsorship mid-event isn't exactly great PR. Tell the board that Ward Technologies maintains a policy of strategic philanthropy aligned with our company values. When that alignment is compromised, we reserve the right to redirect our resources. Issue a statement to that effect." That's corporate speak for, "My wife disrespected me." That's corporate speak for, "We don't invest where we're not valued." Ethan took a sip of scotch. "How bad is the financial hit to Sterling and Associates?" "Bad. They had to scramble to cover the shortfall. Called in favors, emergency loans from the executive team. They managed to keep the event from completely collapsing, but their reputation took a hit. Clients are questioning their fiscal management. And Sienna?" Marcus hesitated. "What about Sienna?" "She's become radioactive. 3 clients have specifically requested she be removed from their accounts. The Henderson deal, the big one she was so excited about, they're reconsidering working with the agency at all. They don't want the controversy." Ethan felt a pang of something that wasn't quite guilt, but wasn't quite satisfaction either. "And Liam?" Marcus's laugh was harsh. "That's the really interesting part. Your boy Liam has been conspicuously absent, hasn't posted on social media since the ceremony, hasn't been seen with Sienna. Word is he's already updating his LinkedIn and reaching out to recruiters. Apparently, being the real partner was fun until there were actual consequences." Of course, Ethan set down his glass. He wanted the thrill, the validation, the excitement of being important to someone successful. But partnership, real partnership, that requires showing up when things get hard, not just basking in the spotlight. "Have you talked to her?" "She's called 47 times, texted more than that. I haven't responded." "She's been to the old apartment, been to your office. Security turned her away both times per your instructions." "Good." "Ethan." Marcus leaned forward. "I'm your friend, your CFO, and I've watched you build an incredible company through intelligence and strategy, but I've also watched you be married to Sienna for over a decade. Are you sure you want to burn this bridge completely? People make mistakes. People say stupid things when they're excited or nervous. This wasn't a mistake." Ethan met his friend's eyes. "A mistake is forgetting to thank someone. This was a deliberate choice. She could have said my partner Liam or my colleague Liam or my incredible team member Liam. But she said, my real partner. Real. As opposed to fake. As opposed to the man sitting in the front row wearing her ring. Maybe she didn't mean it that way. Then what way did she mean it?" Ethan's voice was quiet but intense. "How do you accidentally call someone your real partner while your actual legal partner sits 15 feet away? How do you spend months emotionally investing in someone else, staying late at the office, going to lunches and dinners, sharing inside jokes and meaningful glances, and then act surprised when your spouse notices?" She knew exactly what she was saying. The only thing she didn't anticipate was that there would be consequences. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. So what now? Now? Ethan stood and walked to the window. The city sprawled below him, millions of lights representing millions of lives, all intersecting and diverging and making their own choices. Now I let her understand what she's lost, and I start figuring out who I am without her. She came on the 4th day. Ethan had been expecting it, in a way. Sienna was nothing if not persistent when she wanted something. He'd rejected her calls and texts. He'd had security turn her away from multiple locations. But he'd known eventually she'd find a way to force a confrontation. He just hadn't expected her to remember the penthouse. She must have done some digging, searched through old files or emails or property records. The penthouse was owned by a trust with a deliberately obscure name, but Sienna was resourceful when motivated. The building's concierge called up. "Mr. Ward, there's a Mrs. Sienna Ward here to see you. She's quite insistent. Should I call security?" Ethan stood in his living room looking at the phone in his hand. He could say yes, could have her escorted out, could maintain his walls for another day, another week, however long it took for her to finally accept that it was over. But maybe closure required confrontation. Maybe they both needed to say the things that had been festering unsaid. "Send her up," he said. 5 minutes later, his doorbell rang. He opened it to find Sienna looking nothing like the polished, confident woman who'd stood on that stage. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore jeans and a sweater, casual clothes he couldn't remember seeing her in for months. Her face was bare of makeup, and her eyes were red-rimmed from crying. "Hi," she said softly. "Sienna, can I come in?" He stepped aside, and she entered the penthouse slowly, taking in the sparse furnishings, the unpacked boxes, the clear signs that this was a temporary refuge rather than a home. "I didn't know you owned this place," she said. "I didn't know you were still coming home late with Liam every night, but here we are, both full of surprises." She flinched. "That's not fair. Nothing about this situation is fair." He closed the door and leaned against it, keeping distance between them. "Why are you here, Sienna?" She turned to face him, and he saw that whatever polish she'd maintained over the past few days had finally cracked. She looked exhausted, defeated, genuinely broken. "Because I've lost everything," she whispered. "My job, my reputation. My colleagues won't talk to me. Liam won't return my calls. The Henderson account is gone. My mentor told me I'm too controversial to keep in client-facing roles. Grant is talking about reassignment, but we both know that's code for we're pushing you out. In 4 days, my entire career has imploded. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you?" There was a flash of the old Sienna, sharp, challenging. "Because you caused it. You pulled that sponsorship knowing exactly what it would do to me." "I pulled the sponsorship because you publicly declared that I wasn't your real partner. Actions have consequences." One speech, one careless phrase in one speech, and you destroyed everything. It wasn't one phrase. Ethan's voice rose slightly, his control slipping. It was months of disrespect, months of you choosing someone else, months of me being invisible in my own marriage while you built a life that didn't include me. That speech was just the grand finale. "I never cheated on you." She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. "I never slept with him. I never even kissed him. Yes, we were close. Yes, maybe I relied on him too much. But I never crossed that line. The line was crossed months ago, Sienna. Just because you didn't sleep with him doesn't mean you weren't having an emotional affair." An emotional affair? God, when did you become so dramatic? When did you become so oblivious? He pushed off from the door, his own emotions finally breaking through. "Do you have any idea what it's like to watch your wife fall in love with someone else in slow motion? To see her eyes light up for another man, the way they used to light up for you? To hear her laugh, really laugh, with someone else while you get the tired, irritated version at home? I wasn't falling in love with him. Then what would you call it? Because from where I stood, you were more invested in Liam's opinion, Liam's approval, Liam's partnership than you ever were in mine. You stayed late to work with him. You took his calls in the middle of our dinners. You talked about him constantly. Liam thinks, and Liam said, and Liam suggested. And then, when you had your moment of glory, your moment to show the world who matters to you, you called him your real partner. I was thanking the team. You were making a choice. Ethan's voice cracked. Right there, on that stage, you chose him over me. In front of 800 people, in front of my business associates, in front of everyone who matters in both of our professional worlds, you told them all that I don't matter, that I'm not the real thing, that someone else has taken my place. Sienna sank onto his couch, her head in her hands. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? Explain it to me, Sienna. Because I've spent 4 days trying to understand how my wife could do that, and I keep coming up empty. She was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was small, almost childlike. I was excited. I was happy. And Liam was there for all of it. All the stress and the late nights and the creative breakthroughs. He made me feel alive, important. Not just as your wife or as a junior partner at the agency, but as myself, as Sienna, the creative mind, the innovator. And I didn't make you feel that way. You were always busy, building the company, managing deals, traveling for business. You supported my career, sure, but from a distance. Liam was in the trenches with me. So because I was building a company, our financial security, our future, I deserved to be replaced. I didn't replace you. Yes, you did. Ethan's voice was quiet again, tired. Maybe not in bed, but in every other way that matters. He became the person you turned to, trusted, relied on. And I became… What? The bank account? The safety net? The boring husband waiting at home? That's not… It is. He cut her off. And you know what? I might have been able to forgive the emotional distance, the late nights, even the obvious connection with Liam. But what I can't forgive is the public humiliation. You had one moment to show the world, and show me, that I still mattered, and you chose to show the opposite. Sienna looked up at him, mascara-stained tears on her cheeks. I'm sorry. God, Ethan, I'm so sorry. I was caught up in the moment. I was thoughtless. I was wrong. But please, please don't let one mistake end 12 years of marriage. It's not one mistake. He sat down across from her, suddenly exhausted. It's hundreds of small betrayals that led to one massive one. And now sitting here, looking at you, I realize I don't even know if I can trust you anymore. You can. You can trust me. I'll do anything. I'll quit the agency. I'll cut off all contact with Liam. I'll go to therapy. Whatever you need. What I need, he said slowly, is a partner who wouldn't have put me in this position in the first place. What I need is a wife who respects me enough not to publicly diminish me while standing under banners I paid for. What I need is someone who sees me as their real partner without having to be told or threatened or convinced. I do see you that way. Now you do. After facing consequences, after losing your job and your reputation and your precious Henderson account, but 4 days ago, on that stage, you saw Liam. He was your real partner. I was just… there. The silence stretched between them, heavy with truth and grief and the accumulated weight of months of unspoken resentments. Finally, Sienna spoke, her voice hoarse. So that's it? It's over? 12 years? Just… done? Ethan looked at her, really looked at her, and tried to find the woman he'd married. The bright, ambitious junior marketer who'd charmed him at an industry mixer. The partner who'd supported him through the early, terrifying days of starting his company. The wife who'd once looked at him like he'd hung the moon. She was still in there somewhere, but she was buried under layers of ambition and resentment and the intoxicating validation of being wanted by someone new. "I don't know," he admitted. "I honestly don't know. Right now, I'm so angry and hurt that I can't see past it. Maybe in time, maybe we could find a way back. But it would require real change, Sienna. Not just promises made in crisis. Real, fundamental change in how you see me, how you prioritize us, how you make choices. I can change. I want to change. Do you? Or do you just want things to go back to how they were, where I supported you unconditionally while you built your life around someone else?" She opened her mouth to protest, then closed it. The realization was dawning on her face. She'd been about to do exactly that. Promise change while fundamentally wanting the old dynamic back. She trailed off. "I don't know how to fix this." "Neither do I." He stood. "And that's why I need space, time, distance, to figure out if there's anything left worth fixing." Sienna stood as well, swaying slightly. She looked fragile in a way he'd never seen before. All her confidence and bravado stripped away, leaving only a woman confronting the consequences of her choices. "Can I ask you one thing?" she said. "What?" "When you walked out of that ballroom, had you already made up your mind? That we were over?" Ethan thought about it, about sitting in that front row, watching his wife on stage, hearing those words that had cut so deep, about the moment he'd pressed that button on his phone, canceling the sponsorship, burning the bridge. "No," he said finally. "I hadn't decided it was over. I'd just decided I was done being invisible. What happens next? That's still being written." She nodded slowly, then walked to the door. She paused with her hand on the handle, looking back at him one last time. "I love you," she said. "I know I didn't show it. I know I made terrible choices, but I do love you." "I know," he replied. "But love without respect is just words, Sienna. And words are cheap when actions say something else." She left without another word, and Ethan stood alone in his sparse penthouse, watching the city lights and wondering if he'd just ended his marriage or if it had ended months ago, and he'd only now found the courage to acknowledge it.